Thank you for tuning in to Roll Call. The movie you selected is Made in America, starring Will Smith.
All right, well, hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years through their blockbuster hits.
Because, let's face it, we're all just chasing the power trip that you felt when you got to pick out a movie for the weekend. Like a President's Day weekend.
That's true. By the time this comes out, it's going to be like April. Bria and I are enjoying... Bria, you have tomorrow off, right?
Yes, thank the Lord.
Yeah, thank the Lord. We should be drinking, but we're not. It's okay. We don't have to. Cut
We
that,
can
cut
later.
that. We can later. Anyways, we are excited about the fact that we have that 3-day weekend. And man, I remember as a kid, that was like all the more exciting. It was like an extra sleepover buffer day.
Yes. What's up, everybody? I'm Bria, and I would love to be on the level of unbotheredness that was Whoopi Goldberg biking through Berkeley and Oakland, California in this movie.
Yes, agreed. Although that was extremely dangerous. And in the middle of my movie notes, I said, how has no one got hit by a car yet? And then the next bullet point was, whoops, too soon. Hey, everyone. Whoops. Whoop. She made a woo. Hey, everyone. I'm Simone, and I am just loving the Bay Area 90s realness that this movie brought us today.
Oh my God, did it get you in your feels a little bit?
Oh yeah, definitely.
To time travel back to the 90s Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
What a vibe. If you don't know, then now you know. In today's episode, we'll chat about Will Smith in the 1993 film Made in America, which takes place in the Oakland Bay Area, which me and Simone are very familiar with. Mm-hmm. I went to elementary school in Oakland for elementary school. So this was definitely tugging on my heartstrings, seeing oh, I think I know where they are. But let's take a trip back to May 1993 when this movie was released.
Let's do it. Okay, so pop culture wise, I'm going to be talking about just a few things. And then I'm going to hand it over to Bria, who's going to hit us with some other really cool things in pop culture. One in music is that Janet Jackson in May of 1993 is breaking fucking records. That's the Way Love Goes is a song released by Janet Jackson from her 5th album, Janet, which was released in 1993. The song was initially released on April 20th as the lead single from the Janet album. It was written and produced by Jackson and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. The song's themes of romantic lust saw Jackson's transitioning from sensual territory, considered kind of a shocking contrast to her previous releases amongst critics and the public. The song's slow tempo fused R&B, pop, funk, and soul with flourishes of down-tempo and hip-hop. It received positive reviews from contemporary music critics who praised it as iconic, hypnotic, and extravaganza for its production and vocals. That's the Way Love Goes is one of Jackson's biggest hits in the United States. It was one of the longest remaining hits of 1993, topping the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 weeks. And to date, it is the longest running #1 single of any member of the Jackson family on the Hot 100. It also topped the Hot 100 airplay for 10 weeks, as well as spending multiple weeks at #1 on several of Billboard's other component charts. The song became the first and only single in history to debut at #1 on the Hot R&B/hip-hop airplay chart. And internationally, it placed at #1 in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Hungary, South Africa, Japan, and Europe's Hot 100 charts. It is the 17th biggest hit of the 1990s and the biggest selling single by a female artist in South Africa. It has sold over 3 million copies worldwide. That's the Way Love Goes also received Grammy Awards for Best R&B Song in addition to Billboard Awards, BMI Pop Award for Most Played Song, and the American Music Awards. Its accompanying music received several nominations at the MTV Music Video Awards, including Best Female Video, and also influenced several videos, including releases from Ciara and Prince. The song That's the Way Love Goes has been recorded by artists, meaning covered by Bruno Mars, NSYNC, and cited as influenced by Britney Spears, Nelly Furtado, and inspired or been sampled in songs by Alicia Keys, Destiny's Child, and Hikaru Utada. It is considered to be one of Jackson's signature songs and is included in each of her greatest hits collections. I'll stop there.
I just want to say we love Janet Jackson, and long live Janet. Janet Appreciation Day on the Super Bowl every year. Watch her documentary, people. Go stream her music, buy her albums, and I'm gonna keep it at that because this whole episode could be about Janet Jackson for me at this point. I am deep in my Janet Jackson bag again because of the documentary. So
as Bria is like literally biting backwards, moments before we hit the record button, she's like, "Are you sure you want to talk about this? Because I could go down another deep dive." We love Janet. We're Janet fans. We're Janet stans. And it was just exciting as I was doing the pop culture, initial research and stuff of like, because I will tell you the movies that were also released this month, which are kind of like, and so I was like, there's like gotta be something more. So again, like I said, pop culture wise, we're like doing this second season of Roll Call and going into future episodes, we're trying not to just say the same like facts of like previous years that we may or may not be covering. So we're trying to switch it up a bit. And another kind of fun pop culture moment of this month of May was astronaut Mae Jemison became the first real astronaut to appear on television, and she had a small bit in Star Trek.
Live long and prosper.
Yes, live long and prosper. Even though we should celebrate Black History Month every day, every month of the year, 24/7, we are still in the month of February, so I wanted to maybe just talk a little bit more about her and about the first Black woman who traveled into space. Mae Carol Jemison was born on October 17th, 1956. She is an American engineer, physician, and former NASA astronaut. She became the first Black woman to travel into space when she served as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. Jemison joined NASA's Astronaut Corporation, or Corp, in 1987 and was selected to serve for the STS-47 mission, during which she orbited the Earth for nearly 8 days between September 12th through the 20th of 1992. And let me just backtrack for a quick second. When they started sending women up into space, men who don't know anything about women's bodies, and I think we talked about this previously on another episode.
Peeing.
The pooping, but like the first woman they sent up into space, they're like, okay, she's going to be there for like a few days. In case she has her period, we should get her like 1,000 tampons. Does that sound good? So I'm guessing May probably had this like really awkward conversation. They're like, how many tampons do you think you're going to need up there for the 8 days of orbit?
I also just want to say, like, 8 days floating around in space sounds boring as hell to me. So props to these people who are convinced enough in space travel and exploration to like go float around for 8 days.
Oh yeah,
God knows what.
I'm sure the first time you hit that zero gravity when you're like floating, it's probably super fun, and then you're like, all right, I'm over it, I want to go home.
How the kids felt at space camp.
Oh my god, the elusive prize of space camp that was always like dangled as the carrot in front of us, in front of like Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple,
Guts.
Figure It Out,
Yes.
Guts, all this stuff. You're like, it made me like the chokehold that space camp had on me in the 90s was like, Oh my
They
god.
should still let us go. Like, they're bringing back Legend of the Hidden Temples, but for our age group. They should let us grown-ass people go to space camp.
Dude.
And, oh my god, the hookups. Like,
The
the, like, relationships that would probably be formed. Like, oh, we met at space camp. Like, oh, back in, like, 1997? No, like, we went this year. They reopened it for adults, and we went, and that's how we met, and we fell in love, and now we have a baby. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, space camp. What a vibe.
And what a vibe. And how also fucking funny would it be if in this reboot of Legends of the Hidden Temple, if they kept the prizes exactly the same? Like, you have a Yamaha digital keyboard.
You get to win a Mongoose mountain bike.
Some kind
Nintendo 64. You're just like, bro, like, I already
But
have...
those are worth like so much money now on eBay.
Yeah.
So that would be dope. I'd be fine with that.
I'm sure all of us would, because we're just trapped in the cycle of nostalgia because the rest of the world is just like,
Whatever.
Anyways, more about Mae Jemison.
Yeah. Born in Alabama and raised in Chicago, Jemison graduated from Stanford University with degrees in chemical engineering as well as African American studies. She then earned her medical degree from Cornell University. Jemison was a doctor for the Peace Corps in Liberia and Sierra Leone from 1983 until 85, and then worked as a general practitioner. In pursuit of becoming an astronaut, she applied to NASA. She left NASA in 93 and founded a technology research company. She later formed a nonprofit educational foundation, and through the foundation is the principal of the 100-year Starship project funded by DARPA. Jemison also wrote several books for children. She holds several honorary doctorates and has been inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame and International Space Hall of Fame.
Wow, we salute you. I remember seeing a poster of her. It wasn't in my teacher's classroom. It was in another teacher's classroom. But, like, she was, like, one of those people, you know, for Black History Month in elementary school and beyond, who's, like, you know, very recent or just, you know, highly touted, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, like, you know, where it's like kind of the same group of people get mentioned a lot. But at that time, like, thinking about it, like, I'm a kid of the 90s, so, like, she was very recent, so that's probably why. So I just remember seeing her in the orange, like, spacesuit and her little afro and being like, wow, okay, that's dope.
Yeah. And I think she was put on a stamp at some point as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Kind of cool. Yeah.
Black history. Remember when people used to collect stamps? I'm pretty sure they still do, probably.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But
it still exists.
Yeah.
But Bria, you have some additional kind of pop culture that I would love to give you the platform to do before I switch back over to some of the movies that were released this month.
I didn't realize that we have 2 movies in 93, so I might save some of this. But basically, since this season we're doing Will Smith, I think it's important that we talk about some things that were happening on the Black side of pop culture, because Will is a pivotal part of that, I feel like. And to not highlight some of those things and see how maybe his career affected things, or how, you know, his growth also helped shape and shift that culture in some ways, would be interesting. So in 1993, according to Vibe magazine, but 1993 is a huge year for hip hop. You have some huge hip hop albums like Tribe Called Quest, Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. You have a young Snoop Dogg on the cover of Vibe, and, you know, I was playing Nothing But a G Thing earlier. That's why. But, you know, you have these huge, like, moments in hip hop. Tupac's, like, breakthrough album comes out. You know, he had done stuff before with Digital Underground, but, you know, he's now, like, officially, like, Death Row and, like, the Tupac we all know. And so those are, like, huge moments. And then I think it's important too, like, movie wise, to see how the growth of hip hop culture is reflected in movies because you have movies like Poetic Justice with Janet and Tupac. Again, you highlighted, unbeknownst to me, that Janet's like this huge star, on the rise, and so is Tupac, and they're in this movie together. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that'd be like right now putting, I don't even know. I don't even know who right now you could put together and be like, damn, like that's a dope ass reflection of that time period in a movie.
I don't
But
know. I would say like it was the show that Rihanna and Donald Glover did.
oh, that Amazon movie.
Yeah, I'd say I don't
I
know, maybe
mean,
not.
yes and no. Like Rihanna, I feel like okay. I feel like actually pre Rihanna getting pregnant and pre like Drake being a fuckboy in whatever way he did,
Yeah,
Rihanna and Drake being in a movie together around like One Dance and stuff, that would
yeah.
have been like, and nothing against Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, but I think he's a different kind, like he's not a Tupac of now. He's like a
No.
Q-tip of now in some ways, but like Drake is very transcendent, and I think Tupac was, and Rihanna is in some way, just like Janet was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess that would be as close as we could get, and they're like
Mm-hmm.
still relatively young. Of course, I could always
Mm-hmm.
tote out Beyonce, but she's a mama now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not to be like she couldn't do it because she's a mom, but she's in a different part of her life. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you have movies like that. You have movies like Menace to Society,
Mm-hmm.
which carries on kind of the legacy of Boys in the Hood, of these like hood stories. But then you have great, and there's so much variety too that's starting to happen in the 90s. You have great biopics like What's Love Got to Do with It, which I've talked about before. But it's like nowadays I feel like there's only so many types of black movies, and like I've got like I've got a young kind of, romance movie, Poetic Justice. I've got a biopic about a black entertainer who is legendary in her own right. And then I do have a hood movie, Menace to Society. But Menace to Society is not just a hood movie. It's a hood movie that, like many hood movies, has a message, especially that was poignant for the times. But then you
Mm-hmm.
also have shows like, obviously Fresh Prince was on the air at this time, so having a hip hop star on TV just opened the gates for others. So then you get shows like Living Single, which stars Queen Latifah and is about young black singles, and gets kind of ripped off by Friends. So yeah, I think, especially thinking about like Living Single and Will, like I think those things are interesting to see like come into fruition of like, hey, I wonder if that's kind of why Queen Latifah had done some acting prior to that, but like,
Mm-hmm.
seeing Will be successful, like people are like, I wonder what other little rappers we could get to star in a TV show.
Yeah.
So, and I'll save some other stuff for the next movie in '93.
Mm-hmm.
But cool.
And I am here as an ally. I feel like I can't say that, so I will give you a hell yeah. And I am here as an ally and a friend and a listener and a learner going through this journey. And in speaking of Menace to Society, that was a film that was also released in May of 1993, the same month that Made in America did. In addition, in Menace to Society, we have Cliffhanger starring Sylvester Stallone. We have Happily Ever After, which, Bria, I don't know if you can remember like what this VHS looked like, but it was the same company that did Troll in Central Park, The Penguin, Thumbelina, and like Rockadoodle. And it's
Wasn't
like
that
a
on HBO? Or am I thinking of Napoli Ever After? I think I was thinking of Napoli Ever After.
So Happily Ever After, it's a cartoon, and it is like a retelling of Snow White. And when you look at what the like cover of the movie looks like, it's like, oh yeah, duh. Like I remember seeing that at Blockbuster or like at the movie store or whatever. Um, and it's done in like this very
Oh, it looks
specific.
like knockoff Snow White.
It's exactly a knockoff Snow White without like it, because even though like I don't think technically Disney owns Snow White, like they didn't
Yeah.
want to touch it under. So, but what I thought was interesting is that Irene Cara was the voice of Snow White, who's a very famous Black Broadway singer. Um And
Oh.
so I was like, well, that's cool that she's like the female lead, but I was like, I don't know. She's also a white character. I don't know. So take that as you will. But we also additionally have I knew I was going to say Silver. Sliver, which is like a true crime movie starring Sharon Stone and one of the Baldwin brothers.
Ooh.
It's a very like sexual
Yeah.
looking
As soon as you said Sharon Stone.
yeah, like mouth open. Anyways, we have Daybreak starring Cuba Gooding Jr., and it's this like post-apocalyptic world of 1993. It's basically like a plague where everyone who gets sick is like sent to internment camps. It's like very 2020 vibes. So definitely not watching that. We have a Shakespeare adaptation or retelling of Much Ado About Nothing, and it looked like Denzel Washington was in there. And then we also have the major huge flop movie, the live version of the Super Mario Brothers movie, which
Ooh.
most Nintendo fans are just like, oh yeah, let's pretend that one doesn't exist.
Oh my god, and they're about to remake that, right?
I know, with Chris Pratt, really? That's your best bet right now?
Oh boy. I mean, history is here for us to learn from, but we continuously are just like, no, no, no. I think we're ready to try that again. Why?
Why? I mean, I like Charlie Day. He's gonna be Luigi, and like the rest of like the cast is like fun, I guess, when you think about it. But it's like,
Yeah. Woo. Different kind of woo.
different kind of woo.
All right. Well, let's get into the box office of Made in America,
Let's do
which
it.
premiered May
Memorial
28th,
weekend.
1993.
Mm-hmm.
So, opening weekend. Oh, budget for the movie was 22 mil. I'm guessing there's lots of on location stuff, so I'm sure shooting in Oakland might have been a little expensive. But also Whoopi and Ted Danson, and hot ass young Will Smith probably
Mm-hmm.
like got a few coins. Jennifer Tilly is in this too.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I
Right.
love a blonde Jennifer Tilly.
But so $22 million budget. Opening weekend in the US and Canada was 11.8 million, and then gross in US and Canada was 44.9, and then worldwide $104.9 million dollars. So,
Okay.
not too shabby.
Not too shabby for like a rom-com.
Would you classify this as a rom-com?
I would.
Hmm, okay.
Would you not?
I think it is, but I think it's like very family, or like a family
It reminded
comedy
it,
to me.
yes, like a family rom-com in the way that like Second Act kind of would
Or
be.
Father of the Bride is.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. So Lil Raj, Sir Roger Ebert, has a review for this, and Simone, you already cheated and you saw it, but Lil Raj has given Made in America 3 stars, which is pretty high praise for him.
That is high praise. Yeah. And I'm sure you're probably going to pick some things that, because there was a little oopsie doo and I thought there was a switch in.
Feel free to talk about stuff you read because I actually haven't read the review. So
Okay. So, well, I don't want to say unsurprisingly, but unfortunately, Roger doesn't say anything about Will Smith in his review, but he
Yeah.
does like a Whoopi. And it's like, it's not surprising, right? Because we found out that his wife is black. And so I think that there might be like a little bit of attractiveness there, like like I like Whoopi, she's got star power, So
Yeah.
he kind of excuses a lot of the like clunkiness of this movie. He like really keeps on saying like Whoopi brings it back together. Like she saves it. Her performance like pulls everything back through.
Yeah. His opening
Mhm.
is, which, is very understandable because trying to position myself, we know Whoopi as a legend as she is now, and now she's just like chilling on The View getting a check.
Mm-hmm.
But, this was kind of like her height. Like, I believe Sister Act is before this, and Sister Act 2 comes after. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, she did Jumpin' Jack Flash and all these Eddie and all these other comedies. But she's kind of like an enigma in
Yeah.
Hollywood. Like, to have a black woman who has very strong Afrocentric black features, who has dreadlocks, who isn't like super feminine, and have her be as successful as Whoopi Goldberg has been is just like bravo. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like I would love someone to like do a documentary or something on her, or read like somebody's think piece on her success, because she definitely broke all kinds of molds and barriers and stuff. But he starts out his review with like, I've been thinking about Whoopi Goldberg's appeal, which is real but elusive. I think it has something to do with directness of style, which, like, it's true. Like, when you look at Whoopi Goldberg, you're just like, what is it about her that makes her lovable and different, and again breaking all these molds and barriers of like, this isn't someone that Hollywood would traditionally deem like worthy of headlining movies and such, but here she is doing it, and doing it well. um Shout out to LL Cool J for that. That was not intentional. But he says also that there are no false highs and lows in her performances, no flourishes for effect. She seems to respond directly to the situation at hand. This quality provides a leveling effect for Made in America, a movie that could have been all over the map emotionally, but turns out to be surprisingly effective. And I think that's like a really good overall summary of like her in this movie, especially because I think the reason I forgot to read his review is that I was lost in the sauce of the IMDb reviews, because some of them are from like 99. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is like fresh.
Yeah.
And some people really did not like this movie. And I was just
Yeah.
like, you guys are just haters. Like, this movie makes no sense. It's so stupid. Like, who cares about Ted Danson on an elephant? Like, or, there's just too much going on. And yeah, and I was just like, you guys must have not had fun in the 90s, I guess. But, any other points that you had read that, were standouts?
Just that he kind of ended the review very simply. He said, "This isn't a great movie, but it's a nice one." And that's the kind of the tagline when you see like if you pull it up on like Rotten Tomatoes or like moviecritics.com or whatever, you see like famous people who have reviewed this movie, and that's usually the line that people will pull that one out as like a one-liner. That's probably maybe what was printed in the newspaper,
Yeah,
perhaps.
I saw that on IMDb.
So yeah.
I like where he says, since we can more or less, that's another thing about people's reviews on IMDb. Like, I was like, this is one of those movies again where the trailer kind of, gives you the gist of the whole movie, but
Yep.
also the plot, like, honestly, like a rom-com, you know what you're coming in for. So,
Mm.
like, when people were just like, oh my God, like, it was, predictable, or it wasn't believable, or blah, 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 I'm like, what did you expect? But
Mhm.
Lil Raj says, since we can more or less guess where the plot is heading, parentheses, there is a surprise, but the main lines are clear, parentheses. The movie stands or falls on how much emotional honesty and human comedy it can find between the lines. And I think that this is probably like where some of the predictability, like he's kind of saying, is able to be overlooked, because there are these charming, humorous, funny, honest moments that aren't like too contrived or too like hijinks and over the top. Like, it's just enough.
Mhm.
So on that note, that was me trying to remix that. How many pumps about it are you giving Made in America, Simone?
I don't know if it's a lot of it is like very nostalgic of seeing these gorgeous shots of like Telegraph and Durant Avenue and, you know, seeing this 90s Bay Area
Lake
vibe
Merritt.
that Lake Merritt, you know, that we were kind of raised on. I also really loved the like vibrant colors and like the outfits that Whoopi was wearing and that Will Smith's character Tea Cake was wearing, and even is it Nia Long?
Nia Long.
Nia Long, that her character Zora Matthews, like, you know, is obviously like the characters are so well rooted in like their culture and their history, and I love that piece of it. There was a lot of chaos in this movie that really kind of took me out of it. The large majority of animal abuse was like very difficult to like push through. Anyways, I'm being very winded. I give this
No.
2.5. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but I kind of agree with Lil Raj on this one. It's like, it's not a great movie, but it's nice. You know, I would go, like, if this was on TV, I would stick around and watch it for sure.
Yeah. I am too at 2.5. I am two at 2.5. And for me, I think this is a movie I kind of remember seeing at a younger age, and I remember it because it takes place in Oakland. And I remember my sister pointing out that her aunt was an extra in it. And I was like, you can be in movies? Like, just there? Like, so I remember that, like, fun fact about it. But this isn't a movie that I feel like was on TV a lot, you know, where I usually say, like, you know, I tend to gravitate towards movies that just keep popping up on TV. But, you know, I'm going to sit down and watch this. And I don't think it was for me at least, but it would have been cool if it was, because I feel like as a kid I would have really enjoyed this movie, like for all the reasons you said. But as an adult, there were moments where I was like, okay, let me check Twitter. Like, and usually I don't do that when we watch movies for the podcast because I'm trying to like pay attention, take notes and stuff. And I was like, fuck, like, that's not a good sign. But it's not a bad movie in that sense. Like, but it also wasn't bad Where the Day Takes You, where I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Where you're captivated kind of by like the unexpected, you know, whereas I was like, I know where this is going, you know, and then Will's so minimal in it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
his part's bigger by definitely than his piece in Where the Day Takes You. But I agree that it's that predictability piece that you're like, I know how this is going to turn out and how this is going to end. And so like I can just relax and watch it versus like with Where the Day Takes You, you're like, ooh, well, what's going to happen? Or like there's so many different plots going on that you're like, oh, okay, I do have to kind of pay attention and watch this.
Yeah, those are great points. So let's talk about the summary of the film.
Okay.
For those people who may not want to watch or have not seen Made in America.
Okay.
I guess I could do that. I mean, the basic premise of this is that Nia Long's character, Zora, is young, bright, and black in the Bay Area. But she's friends with Will's character who plays TK, and her mother is played by Whoopi Goldberg, who plays Sarah. And so in science class, they're doing some blood thing, which I was kind of like, is that...
You definitely cannot do that anymore. I don't think they prick fingers anymore.
Right. I was like, are we playing in blood in school? Okay. But
it was the 90s.
She does this blood thing where they're figuring out their blood types. And so she realizes that her blood type is not possible with the blood type that her mother has told her father had. And so she's like, you cheated on my dad and he's not my daddy. And she's like, what? She's like, okay, well, no. I was artificially inseminated, which, triggered me all the way to backup plan. I was like, like, imagine those little ginger babies when they get older and they're like, something ain't adding up here. You not redheaded, you not redheaded. Like, but anyway, so Zora is like, what's going on? Like, what happened? And Whoopi's like, I got artificially inseminated. I was in love with Charlie and he passed away, and so I figured, and this was a great reason to get artificially inseminated. I put that in my notes because she's like, I was in love with Charlie, love of my life, and I lost him, and I figured I should try to make another one. And so I decided to have a baby. And so I got artificially inseminated. And, she just lied and said that that was her dad instead of saying what happened, which I think is kind of understandable. Like,
Yep.
So basically, Zora figures out who her father is. And it's supposed to be Ted Danson's character, who is white, which is supposed to be kind of this big shocker reveal thing. And so much ensues from the dichotomy of, them being black and him being white and getting to know each other and, have a kid, like, and everything of it all. And then him and Whoopi start to, like, really get along and enjoy each other's company, and all kinds of stuff happens from that. But, basic story is, Zora walks away with the father figure. And that is my summary of Made in America. So,
Excellent. Good job.
We kind of already mentioned the trailer.
You know exactly what you're going to get. Tagline of this movie is, at the sperm bank, she asked for a tall, intelligent black man. 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
I read that on IMDb and I was like, wow, I need to quit my job. Like, who's writing these taglines? Like, I could have definitely came up with something better than that, but...
Oh, well, and then that whole, like, when she, like, when Zora finds out and she goes to, like, talk with her mom about it, and she was just like, I haven't even told you the worst part, like... Yes. She was just like, he's white, and then they freak out, and she's like, no, that's not, like, there's something even worser. Because, like, that was the whole shtick, is that not only was he not a black man, but he was, like, a white guy and this, like, skeevy, famous, quote-unquote famous car salesman in, and that sold, used, like, all-American Chevy cars, and
How's your pal?
Hal's your pal, and he used, like, animals in all of his commercials and stuff, and he was, like, so, like, just douchey all around.
Yes. So let's talk about the cast, since we're talking about Hal and the hijinks of it all. So, I mean, we kind of already mentioned the main players here. We have a very young, fresh-faced Nia Long, who was in Boys in the Hood, and then, which is so crazy to think about because Nia Long winds up being on Fresh Prince with Will, and so this is their first acting role together. I would love for them to do a movie together now, saying that. Like,
yeah, I liked their chemistry. I mean, their chemistry in this movie was on more of like a familial friendship base. They had been together or been friends for a really long time, and it was like pretty clear that TK had like a big crush on her and was kind of like simping for her and was like, when are we going to get together kind of thing. And then it doesn't really end up happening. But like, I thought that their chemistry was great. And then obviously on Fresh Prince, like they were awesome. So yeah, it would be fun to see them in a movie.
Yeah. And then we have the heavy hitters, Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson, straight off of like his run from Cheers. Trying to pivot from TV to movies. And then young Will Smith, who we'll talk about even more. And then we have a young Jennifer Tilly, who's like this blonde bimbo dancer size chick. Which, I don't know, just amazing. And then I would also like to note, we have a youngish Paul Rodriguez, who's a comedian and actor, Mexican-American, but I know him because I love his son, Paul Rodriguez Jr., who's a famous skateboarder. And when I was in high school, I was like, oh my God, P-Rod, like, so cute. But yeah, so one thing, I don't know if you know this, Simone, but one thing I also got distracted by while watching this was that I knew that Whoopi and Ted Danson dated. The shock on your
Are
face.
you shitting my dick?
No.
Oh, interesting. I mean, you can kind of, I guess now looking back at it, like you can see they were very, I mean, the way he like smelled her and stuff, like when they
Yeah.
went out on their date and stuff, it was cute. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So obviously, I don't know about for you, but I couldn't really find like a lot of interviews or anything about this movie, especially regarding Will's part in it. But
Yeah.
what I did find was an interview of them, and so it gives very like we're dating vibes. And
Mm.
the interviewer, Bobby Wynant, I think, she asked them because they have like these signs, like little picket signs, but like with answers on them. And she's like, "So
Mm-hmm.
what's the signs for?" And they're like, "Oh, you'll see." And then she's like, "Well, okay, so there's a rumor of a relationship. Are you guys?" And they're like, "We'll see." And they use the signs to be like personal, not answering. And
Oh.
but it was kind of a big deal, and I hate to keep going back to J Lo and Ben, but Whoopi and Ted, this again very ethnic, black, strong, Afrocentric featured woman with dreadlocks and beautiful darker skin, dating like America's like hot bar dude.
Yeah.
Kind of like whoa, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an unlikely coupling.
Yeah, and I believe Ted Danson was married and they wound up getting a divorce. So I believe that there was a little rendezvous. It wasn't quite, just clean
Mm.
romance. And but highly controversial. Another controversial part of their relationship I know about is that Ted Danson did blackface while they were dating at I don't know if it was like her birthday or something honoring her, but I don't want to say I'm going to give him a pass, but I'm going to say within the context of that time in his life, I feel like I can make an understanding, not an exception, but an understanding because I feel like when you date a person of color, sometimes love blinds them and they let you do some shit that they should have been like, no, actually, maybe we shouldn't do that. Like, I feel like they were both blinded by the love and of it all. And Whoopi was like, oh my God, that's so funny and so cute if you did blackface. And he's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, it's just a joke. No one's gonna care. Like, I'm black. Like, you're dating a black woman. Who's gonna say anything? And it's like, no, Whoopi. People are gonna say things. And then the internet, they didn't know that shit was gonna be everywhere
It's
forever for
gonna
everyone
stay
to.
forever.
Yes. So, any other notes? I mean, obviously, acting wise, like we said, they kind of have a very believable chemistry because, at that
Mm-hmm.
time they were kind of dating. And then Whoopi's great. Like Roger Ebert said, she just kind of hits points where they need to be hit. Nothing's over the top, nothing's overly simple either. It's just really believable, real, and honest in many ways. Ted Danson's a little campy at times, but
Yeah.
especially because he has like this accent that kind of is like,
Yeah,
day.
he's going in and out of like little bit of a southern cowboy accent there and I do you think he's attractive?
Yes. I love Cheers. Cheers is one of my comfort shows.
I
And like
know.
just like I like Woody Harrelson because of Cheers.
But see, I think Woody Harrelson is more of like a strange attractiveness. I find Ted Danson more attractive now, weirdly
Oh
enough.
yes.
Like he's like really aged into like a cute little white-haired daddy.
Silver Fox, yes.
And he's so good on The Good Place, right? Like he, so
Because I have thoughts about like when we get to remake and all that stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
interested in hearing like who maybe you'd recast in this.
Oh, I wrote it down. Yes.
Any notes? I know earlier you said, oh, I love like a young blonde Jennifer Tilly. Any notes about that or her?
Her character was like the Energizer Bunny. So it was like Tal was on he had been like married, divorced twice or something. It was very clear that Jennifer Tilly's character, Stacy, was just this like fuck toy kind of.
Yeah.
Like it was not necessarily a very serious relationship, but she was a little bit younger. She's obviously in great shape. She, like Bria said, she's like a jazzer dancer, exercise gal. She's been wearing these like neon pink tights and like a thong leotard and stuff. So very like 80s, 90s jazzercise vibes. Or step class, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, her character was just a cute little comedic relief. She didn't have any. I thought maybe she would like get in the way of his relationship with Whoopi Goldberg, like as he kind of wanted to like date her, and then she would, no, you cannot do that. It's either going to be me or her, and like or like she
I feel like you have this untapped talent of like. What? That might be your very Jewish Simone of the season. It's like, what does very Tilly Simone think?
I thought maybe she would like go sabotage her bookstore. You know what I mean? Like I thought she was gonna be like really petty about it. Kinda. But no, she was great, and I love her. You know, she's kind of like Jennifer Coolidge, where they know that like their looks and voice are so unique, and that what like makes them marketable.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the part where he had just left Sarah, Whoopi's character, and they had finally kind of hooked up for a bit, and so he's a little love dazed, and he gets back and he's like, oh fuck, like I forgot about you.
Yeah.
And she's there with this other dude that she's hanging out with, and they're like, oh, well, not that part, but it
was when she breaks up with him.
Yeah. Skipping ahead, she's like, it's not working. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Like, and she's adamant to try to have this like dramatic breakup.
Oh, Hal, it's going to be okay. You're going to be just fine. And then she like leaves and then like runs back into the house. Don't cry over me. I'm sorry. It has to be like she like, and he's just like, it's fine. You're good. Like you're going to like that other dude so much more better. Like get out of here, kid.
I thought that was like some pretty good comedy stuff.
Yeah.
And then I guess let's just talk about.
Let's get into Will.
So I feel like obviously by this time Fresh Prince is on the air. I feel like this is not a stretch from him as Will on the Fresh Prince.
No.
Style wise, they're very 90s backwards hat, colorful clothes, stuff like that. He has glasses in this movie, which, hey. But high top fade Will, nothing too contrived, funny, good one-liners. I loved when Ted Danson comes to the door and he answers it and he's like, there's a white man at the door. Like, and that's in the trailer. What you gonna do about that? Yeah. That's in the trailer, so that kind of gives that joke away in a way. But, and then there's a part where Zora goes on a date, and so I think this is supposed to allude to like him actually liking her, but where he's like talking to no one else, like just himself, and he's like switching off from male and female, and I feel like that's very like 90s. I don't think he could do that so much now because he's like, I feel like he's giving very zesty like gay dude in that. And trying to be a girl, like, like, and then he says bitch, which Will Smith, in his rap, he vowed not to curse for his grandmother. And so I think it's rare to hear him curse. So I was like, oh my God, like, he called himself a bitch because he's doing this back and forth thing with himself. Yeah. But he's a solid, good friend of character, sidekick, like bestie neighborhood kid type
Yes.
character.
Yes. My main notes was that Will Smithed in this movie. This was very like, and I don't think we're going to see much of a change. Actually, we're going to see a change in like 6 degrees of separation, and then definitely obviously in like some of the more like serious roles and stuff. But like Will Smith has a very like set way of acting, especially in his like comedic bits, and I feel like he pulls a lot of those kind of same thing of like, you know, code switching or like going male to female. He does a lot of that in Fresh Prince. So I felt like this character, like you said, wasn't too much of a stretch. I felt there was a little bit of a trope of being like the jealous best friend, kind of like in 16 Candles, right?
Yeah.
Like of watching the
Ducky.
girl, get the
Oh wait,
other guy.
is that Pretty in Pink? Yes.
So it's like 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, like that era generation.
Lizzie
of, like,
McGuire.
the Gordos of the world, right?
Yes.
But it could have been also like, but I'm glad that it didn't take on that other stereotype part where like he shames her into like wanting another relationship or like wanting to pursue like getting to know Hal Jackson or whatever, and like standing in the way of her character growth. He just served more as like funny best friend support role and stuff, and never had any like, besides when she goes out on a date and stuff and he was just like, you're really gonna let her like dress like that, I was kind of like, nah, that's a bit stereotyping there, or like tropey of like jealous best friend. But other than that, like I loved that he worked at the bookstore. I loved that they'd known each other forever. I loved his big Malcolm X necklace and Malcolm X shirt. Like, and he had a Raider sticker on his helmet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many things. Bring back the Malcolm X and like the Africa leather medallions. I'm here for it. Maybe I could find one like on eBay or something, or Etsy.
I'm also here for her pink and blue bike. That motorbike she had was fucking cool.
I want to talk about that. But there was also, Nia Long has some pretty dope outfits in this movie. I love like her little jean vest short moment when she goes to visit him at the car dealership to confront him. Of course, there's some moments where it's like typical, like, I'm a teenager, like, and it's just like, girl, he's shooting a commercial. Can't you wait to be like, hey, you're my daddy? Like,
I noted that too. I was like, this is the time, like when he has a bear in front of him, that you want to be like, you're my, like, I get it, this is important to you, but you also had that whole car ride over. And maybe you didn't want to spill the beans right away. Maybe you're like, and trying to get a feel. And he was driving like a
maniac.
That's true. That's true.
I was like, this would not fly, because if you didn't notice, it looked like he lived in like the Oakland Hills, kind of like near the Redwoods. Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, me and Swan go hike there with Jessica. Like, I know where that place is. And then obviously I know like kind of the car dealership is typical like Broadway, downtown Oakland, Temescal area, and Telegraph, obviously. I really want to know though where they shot when they were like walking. Well, Whoopi first bike rides through, and there's like this big arch, and then they walk through there when they like are hanging out that night, and it's like a park. And I thought it was maybe just Berkeley, like the campus or something, but I'm kind of like, maybe we should go like to a location sightseeing. So let's talk about moments that in the movie. I, for one, the opening scene of them in the classroom, I was like, oh, I love a 90s classroom.
Yes, especially a 90s science classroom.
Oh, yes. And they shot that at Oakland Tech, which I've driven by plenty of time in my life. It's like what I envisioned high school to be. It's not what I got, but my uncle actually graduated from there. I also remember my sister telling me that, like, oh, that's where your uncle went to school. I was like, oh my god, what? He's in a movie? Like, but big school, double levels, probably had lockers. You know, just big, the wooden doors in the front, like the steps, like, just amazing. And then let's talk about this fucking scooter, because I was like, oh my god, yes, because when she figures it out, that's how she leaves school, and it's like, fuck the bike rack, get on my
Yeah.
scooter.
Let me get on my little scoot, and Will's just like, all right, I'm going with you, you know? So, I love that. I love her scooter. Every part of the set was fantastic. And even like the cars that Hal was selling, they're all like the bright yellow, oranges, reds, like think of every
TK
obnoxious.
sits in like a classic yellow 90s RAV4 and the lady's like trying to sell it to him.
Uh-huh.
And like I was like, oh man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Hal's truck. I was like, that's a badass truck.
It was a badass
I gotta
truck.
admit. He's obnoxious and it's a little bit obnoxious, but like it's this bright red, like F-150 lifted chrome, like bars and pipes and grills and stuff, and just yes. um what other parts? That's saving that for later. So TK goes with Zora to the sperm bank. I thought that was a funny scene. Lots of questions there because
I guess like for plot purposes, because she was like, oh, when they said you can't go in there, and she's like, okay, well, where's the bathroom? And then she finds the like, you know, one computer room as it was in 1993, where everyone just had one computer room in their location, um and two, like there were fun parts of how this movie dated itself of when we find out later about the sperm and the files that get taken over. And anyways, I won't release that just yet.
I mean, this is a little pervy, but even them going and, when she's like, okay, well, we have videos, we have VHS, or we have magazines. And like, now it's just like, hey, here's an iPad. Have at it. Like,
yeah, seriously. Here's our Spank Pink magazine. Yeah. But yeah, I liked that part too. And like the way that nurse, like they like overdubbed her voice to make it sound like she was talking really slow. And he was nervous. Will was nervous about not being able to like fill the whole cup, and then he like sticks his head out and he's just like, hey, I need a second cup.
And then I wrote down that the price, $40 per donation, like that is not enough. That's not enough for me to be like potentially.
But in 1993 was pretty good, and you can do up to like 4 donations a week or something like that. So
I mean, I get it. I'm just saying that men are cheap.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah, men are cheap, but like that process is so much easier than like egg retrieval.
Yeah. But I was just like, $40 per donation. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then he has a line where he's like, you want me to go in there and wrestle with the bald-headed champ? And I was like, oh my God, I've never heard that as a descriptor of masturbating. Like, I was just like, that's funny, the bald-headed champ. That makes I get it. So funny. Yeah. So obviously this is where Zora gets to the computer that has, who's donated to whom and whatnot. And I love a scene in a movie that's hacking away at like an old school hand computer with the clickety clack keyboard
and the green font on a black screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the blue screen with the white font, like just all of it. I was just like, yes, get in there, girl. Like, and of course the kids know how to do it. Like nowadays, like I feel like even though we have so much technology, like you have like your random 13-year-old's not just going to be able to be like, okay, cool, I've got the files. Like you have to be like, they have to be like some super smart hacker kid that like knows what they're doing. Oh, so after this, she figures out that Hal is allegedly her father. So we get introduced to him, and it was just in the throes of passion with Jennifer Tilly's character. And I was dying when she like hits like multiple cartwheels from the bedroom to the bathroom.
Again, The first 45 minutes of this movie, as Lil Raj noted, were just like very chaotic. And so that was just one of those things that I was like, really? We're naked cartwheeling to the bathroom. And that's why she's like the Energizer Bunny. Like she was just like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
I was just like, okay, wow. Also her Reebok collection, like in the closet, like, you know, I love a good sneaker moment. So I was like,
I
oh,
do.
I see you. Like, I see you with the sneaker closet, the jazzercise shoes. Um, and then, you know, Zora comes, Hal's leaving, and, you know, she winds up getting in his truck, and then he's driving all wild, like, to the car dealership to go shoot this commercial. So that driving sequence had me stressed out. I was just like, oh my God, never would that happen. But she gets sick from that ride, car sickness. And so one of his workers, Diego, gives her a Mountain Dew. And she takes one sip. And I was just like, what a waste of a Mountain Dew. like do the do, baby, fully.
Do the do.
But like the commercial that he's shooting to is like a big, both of those commercials are like a big, like supposed like plot, like driver, but also like part of the comedy of it all. But it's just typical like 90s hijinks of like, here's an animal and here's everything going wrong in this commercial, and he like electrocutes himself, and then the animal like mauls him and all this stuff. And then
Right.
later on with the elephant, like the elephant just takes off down the street all the way to the lake.
Right. And Whoopi thinks that it's chasing her because she has the bell on her bike, but really he's just following like the signal of the bell and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I guess that elephant just goes into Lake Merritt, and then they're like they like the cameraman follows them the entire time, and they're like, we got it. That's the commercial. I'm like, in no world would they be continuing this shoot. Like they would stop. They're up, you know, where's animal control? Where's the police? Where is
Yeah, because like part of it is like the camera crew and stuff. They're like rolling down the street on like some kind of rig too, like all together, just like keep shooting, like, and it's
keep
like
going.
what?
And then he makes a comment later when he like shows up at the house. They're like, where's the elephant? He's like, I don't know, he drowned, I guess. I was like, what the fuck?
I think he said that to a kid who wound up
Oh, that's it.
to
That's
the dealership. Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, that commercial, I guess, was like so wildly successful. Then everyone was like, oh, I want to go to the dealership where the guy was on the elephant. And
Yeah.
people were just like buying cars left and right. And they're, yeah.
Also
That
not
was-
realistic. That would just be on YouTube now. Or
He would
World
go
star.
viral, and then people would be like, this guy's an animal abuser. Let's like loot his dealership.
yeah. Oh my God. But allegedly too, in the Ted Danson Whoopi Goldberg interview, he said that the elephant going in the water, like I'm guessing they had to do multiple takes, but elephant relieved themselves in water. So he's like, that was not fun. Like, you know, that's where they do their business. And so, you know, I have to be in this body of water with this elephant. And guess what it wants to do? It wants to pee, it wants to poop. So I thought that was interesting. I never would have thought of it. Another part that I thought was pretty funny was Whoopi is at her bookstore, which is like this very Afrocentric.
Oh, I know what part you're talking about.
African-American bookstore. Yes.
Yes.
And these two white ladies come in and they're like, where's your books on weddings? And she's on the phone with the sperm place trying to figure shit out. And so she's like, over there. And they keep hounding her. But like, I was just like, oh my God, these Karens like coming into this bookstore.
I said white girls after taking one African American history study class in college.
White girls after dating one black guy.
White girls after their vacation to like Jamaica.
White
their
girls
spring
after
break.
serving in the Peace Corps. But I thought that was so funny how they were clearly like not aware of their surroundings, you know?
They were so not, and they didn't give a shit that Whoopi was like dismissive and being like, "Oh my God, get out! Like, go!
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Like they were, and then they're just like, "We are so terribly sorry of what like our people have done to you."
Well, that comes after she winds up leaving to go.
She like locks him in the store,
Yes.
yeah.
And so her and Hal come back and they're still in there just running around in like kente cloth and with like piles of books and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, you're back. Like, well, we didn't know what to do, so we just started reading and stuff, and we want all this stuff, and we're so sorry for what we've done to you. Like, and I was just like, oh my God. Every time, like, yeah, it's just like, take the lesson and carry that on. You don't need to confirm with us sometimes. Just
Yeah, honestly, that was like one of my favorite parts of this movie. I just thought it was really fucking funny.
Yes, I thought that was hilarious. And then, the part where, again, Jennifer Tilly's hanging out with this dude and Ted Danson comes home, but that guy is like, oh, we're gonna like hang out later. Like, he's very like Wayne's World 90s grunge dude looking, long hair, long wavy hair. And not the gym, the band that he says that they're gonna go see is called Stinky Nightgown. I was just like, what? That is random and weird. And
that sounds like a Nickelodeon cartoon grunge band.
Like from Rocko's Modern Life or something. Like,
yeah.
Stinky Nightgown.
Stinky Nightgown. Or like what Deb from Wild Thornberries would be listening to.
Like, oh my God, Eliza, give me my Stinky Nightgown tape. Like, yes, that is so true. And then eventually Whoopi Goldberg gets hit on her bicycle because she's like upset and riding away. And I was like, it was only a matter of time. And it was the weakest like bicycle hit ever. But
it truly was.
Like you said earlier, the fact like that she was just bobbing in and out of traffic, running red lights, like just no care in the world, no helmet besides her dreads. Like, and the fact that didn't happen earlier was astonishing. But so many.
And Little
many
Raj kind of he talked about that in his review of like the wild setup of like multiple scenes that we see her just like being extremely negligent on a bicycle, weaving out of traffic. Like, she caused multiple accidents of cars hitting each other and was still like, pedaling along to the store. And she was just like, well, let me grab my flowers. Let me put them in my ring, ring, ding, 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 But yeah, you're so right. Like, it was a setup for it to happen later, but she didn't have to be an asshole the whole time for it to be a setup for her to get hit by a car. Like, if riding a bike was her main mode of transportation, she didn't have a car, like, it just I don't know, you run that risk anyways being a cyclist of getting hit by a car. I guess you double run that risk when you're just never looking. And
you just got your Walkman and your basket and you're just...
But she wasn't even listening to music. I think that's the thing.
Well, I know in the first sequence it seemed like she was, because I remember seeing the yellow Walkman, because I'm on this cassette tape kick right now. So got it.
So anyways, she gets hit by a car. She gets sent to the hospital. And what I thought was interesting was that while Zora and Hal are waiting to they find that she's unconscious. She broke her leg. They had to operate on it and stuff. And then they were hanging out in the waiting room. A nurse comes out and they're like, oh, while you're waiting, do you want to give blood? We always encourage families to give blood. Do they still do that? Like, I know obviously you can go like donate blood, but it's just the way that was like so casually like, oh, while you're waiting, unless she needed a severe blood transfusion, which it didn't really seem like that was the case, that she was just unconscious and she broke her leg.
Yeah, I think that's just a plot driver, because then you bring up the blood types again, and it's like, my blood type still doesn't make sense for yours. So, and then he looks into that further, and plot twist, he's not her daddy.
Maury Povich, you are not the father, comes on. And I thought, and that's kind of where the movie dated itself, was they said, well, back then, we're going to go back 17 years ago. If 1993, if I'm doing my math right, it would have been like,
No. That's more than 17 years ago.
no, if it's 1993 when this movie was made and Zora was 17.
Okay, she's 17 and then,
then,
sorry.
Yeah, so it would have been like late 70s, right? When he like donated sperm or whatever, or when Sarah Matthews had, chosen to be artificially inseminated. And so they said back then all of the file records were on paper, and then about like 10 years ago they started to like digitally move the files, and they had that work done overseas, and then there must have just been like a miscommunication or something. And I'm just like, yeah, I remember when everything was on paper, and then they decided, oh, okay, no, computers are here to stay, and we're just gonna like put all of these. I'm like nervously twitching. It's just like the thought of like digitizing all of those old files and stuff. Man, I'm glad we skipped a lot of that part.
Like us, like we existed already, like when that transition
because happened. that had to have been someone's job. Just like learning how to fucking use a computer, and then like creating these like files and documents, and just like, typing in sperm donors and typing in this and like digitize it, like medical records and all that stuff. So I'm like, oh, thank fucking God that wasn't a job. How terrible would that have been?
I mean, I still feel like we're still grappling with some aspects of that because boomers are still in the workplace. So I have coworkers who aren't even boomers. They're like Gen X who are like, yeah, I need to print this out and like be able to write on this and take notes and stuff. And here I am with my iPad, like, oh great, I could send this PDF to myself and write on it in GoodNotes, like, and I don't have to waste paper, and I could search the PDF, like, chef's kiss. And they're like, I have this binder full of printed notes and trainings and stuff, and I'm just like, okay. So I think that, I'm glad that we came in at a point where for the majority of things it was digitalized practically almost, but I think we're still teetering on the edge of...
Yeah. And not to get too off topic, I think sometimes it can also be just a preference thing. I like to take handwritten notes, and you do digital notes. But I also know how to fucking work a Google Drive, and like... I can also take digital notes too if I wanted to. But yeah, some of it can be preference related as well. Yeah,
so Will's part is small in this, but we've already said this is very easily compared to his role on The Fresh Prince. But like, let's talk about, I guess, like this movie. Like, does it hold up today? Would it hold its own in 2022? What would a remake look like? All those fun things.
We've seen different iterations of quote unquote sperm banks or artificial insemination movies gone wrong, rom-coms, right? Like the one Jennifer Lopez. But I don't want to say that didn't go wrong for her. The boy in The Backup Plan, fuck you. But and then there's the Jason Bateman movie and Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
That was the one where he jizzed in a cup and she thought it was someone else's jizz. She ended up having his kid.
There's a storyline on the Golden Girls where Blanche's daughter decides to get artificially inseminated, and Blanche is like, no, like that is why. And I think this is like a fairly new technology still, like, and still kind of taboo, and to make a movie about this, and to make a movie about like an interracial child being conceived, and then
yeah,
and
I think
I must say that
no, go ahead.
It is one thing to have a black man and a white woman. It is very rare to see a black woman and a white man a lot of times in interracial depictions. So this was like, I'm surprised they took a risk and made this movie, because
and it was like pretty gross income wise a successful hit. This was not a box office flop. to be a Memorial Weekend movie release too. Like it did pretty damn well. So, but the premise of like the old switcheroo, like that's been around for a while, whether it be about artificial insemination or whatever. But absolutely, I think this movie can be remade to today, and also have it be on the same, premise of it's not the sperm that you expected it to be, or the father is not expected of what you thought. And I
Oh, the kids are all right. That's another one.
yeah. The kids are all right.
That one's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
But oddly enough, I don't know why, but when I was watching this, I think she's too old now, but like I would have loved to seen this remade with Zendaya
Mm-hmm.
because she is a mixed child. That's one thing too. Like I know Nia Long is black, so I was like, I mean, great for her. And also, I read that Thandie Newton was in line to be cast as Zora, and she actually, I think she turned it down, and she really pushed for Nia. Which, given what Thandie has said recently, but but I think that's fine. They don't have to be mixed, but I think Zendaya can definitely like lend some authenticity to that. And she's from the Bay Area. So I mean, I'd
How
love
fun
to
would it be
see.
if they remade it and still kept like the shooting and location fairly the same?
Yes. Like
The general premise.
I'd love to see movies in the Bay Area. So I would love to see that happen again. But I think she's too old and she's trying to distance herself from, but I think post Disney, like right away, this could have been a good like little cute little film for her to do, but she's on her euphoria bag. She's acting her ass off on that show
Yeah.
as a drug addict. So I doubt she wants to make like a cutesy, oh my god, like I don't know who my birth father is movie. um
Yeah, and I guess I mean in at the end of the day, this movie more so stars Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson rather than Nia
yeah.
Long. But it would be interesting to have that role reversal switch where it's not actually starring the adults, but it's starring the kid who are looking for their birth father or like curious about their birth father, or whether it was like an adoptive situation
Yeah. I
or
think I think you have them go through more to figure it out. Like that's a good driver of the plot is like them trying to piece together, okay, who is this guy? Like how can we get in touch with him? Kind of like it makes me think of The Parent Trap. Like that movie centers on Hallie and Annie
mm-hmm.
and one, them not recognizing that they are fucking identical, but two, them piecing together that they're twins, that their parents separated, and figuring that out. But despite it being very Hallie and Annie focused, you still are rooting for Nick and Elizabeth to get back together. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is one part of this I didn't really love, but I can understand. But I wish Zora was okay with her mom and Hal getting along. I get where she was coming from though. She was like, "Look, I just found this man and you're already trying to fuck him for real. Like, I'm just trying to get to know him."
Yeah, she's
Like,
like,
calm
please don't
down.
fuck this up for me.
Yeah. But yeah, I would love to see it more like driven that way than how it is. And then I could do without the plot twist at the end. Just let him be her fucking dad. Like,
Yeah, yeah, the plot twist was interesting. Well, I guess not interesting. The plot twist is predictable, but you still get that like heartfelt movie magic ending as she's graduating high school. Zora is incredibly intelligent and she gets this scholarship to MIT, and Will Smith's character like introduce like they're walking across the stage and then they're about to like give out the special awards. And he was like, well, I'm have this honor to give this award to my best friend. And then Zora goes on to say like how proud she is of her upbringing and her mom, and wants to call Sarah Matthews up there to, kind of bestow the honor to her as well. And as she's walking up there, she has a cane because it's post accident and stuff. And then we see Hal Jackson like going through the crowds and stuff. She's like, this is my mom, everybody, and I'm her father. That's my dad. And then the choir breaks out and sings a song about AIDS. Like, the ending of this movie, I think to me was just the most, like, at that point, like, I was Candy Crushing a little bit, and then I dropped my phone and looked up at that point, and I was like, really? This is where we're going with this. But
oh, you were really playing Candy Crush.
No, I was really Candy Crushing. So, like, I was on my phone, I'm like, I'm her dad. I was kind of like, oh my God, that's a little, like, migraine temple rubbing moment for me. But then I was just like, whatever. And then, like, when the group of...
not realize that song's...
Yeah, the group of students starts, like, rapping and also singing and stuff, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I know like it was very common back in those days to like end a movie in song fashion. Maybe they're playing a little bit into that like sister act thing, right? Like of incorporating more like music.
Yeah, I will say though that I made the note. I was like, I am here for this black ass graduation.
Hell yeah, that was really cool because I thought it was an all black high school for a moment because I was like, I can't. I mean, there was like one or two white kids in there, but
I don't think like it's like a HBCU where it's just I think at that time in the 90s the population and the community that went to tech was primarily probably Black and Latino. So by nature it just looks like a primarily Black school, but it reminded me of my elementary school in some ways, which was in Oakland, and which is near Mills College. And it's no longer what it was called, but I was like, I can't believe they're like ending this in like song and whatnot. And I was like, wait, when I graduated, my little promotion to middle school, we sang songs. In our elementary school promotion, we sang, oh my God, in retrospect, sorry, but this was like 2003. So we sang I Believe I Can Fly.
Of course you did.
And then Nas had just came out with this song, and it was like, I know I can't be what I want to be what I want to be. So it's very, inspirational. So we did that. And I was like, wow, is this like, I didn't realize that this was like a Black experience. Because I was like, I've gone to fairly mixed schools since then, not primarily African American communities anymore, like once we moved away from the inner Bay Area to the outer Bay Area. But yeah, like I was just like, man, I'm a little jealous I didn't have that experience. And I was like, hold up, I did. I just wish I had it at an older age. But yeah. Oh, and then I did forget, but when we graduated from St. Mary's, they have cultural graduation ceremonies that are separate for various ethnicities. So there's like a Latino one, which I believe you went to too, right? And then, so there's a African American one, and that's like what I invited like my grandparents to. So for that one, they played Pharrell, Happy had just came out, and so they had played that, and they were like, you'll remember this, like when I graduated we did this, and I kind of forgot, but yeah. So we sang along to that and had a kumbaya moment. So I feel like this is part of the Black experience that I didn't realize. So all right, graduation singing moment, come through.
Yeah, listen, the song took me out of it a little bit, but the overall experience I thought was awesome.
Yeah, they could have played something else, but I'm surprised too that like Will didn't like rap like in it.
I thought so too. Yeah, I thought that he would have done something.
Yeah, like parents just don't understand. So it seems like we think that. Well, so does this movie, as it exists created in 1993, hold its own in 2022? What do you think?
I think as is, I mean, I would personally probably take out, like, you can still have the supposed father be like a sketchy kind of like skis ball kind of person, or maybe a celebrity, um or maybe like someone who's on the news, or like a politician perhaps, or something. But I would just take out like the animal piece of it. I just,
Yeah.
again, like, that was really shticky and gimmicky for me, and then I was like, this movie still could have been funny without it, and maybe I'm just being too overly PETA and sensitive about it, but I was just like, meh, didn't really need it.
No, yeah, I think that's true.
But overall, as is, I feel like, yeah, it could still totally hold its own.
Yeah, if I was a substitute teacher, I'm popping this bad boy on the projector. I was gonna say in like a VHS tape, but you don't do that no more.
I think the more easygoing a movie can be means that it's easier for it to morph or transcend into different decades and eras. Like, typically, or I don't know, I mean, I guess period pieces and stuff, if it's, since it covers like eras in history,
Specific,
that
yeah.
that never changes. But I think basic plot wise, yeah, this movie can be made absolutely again, but I just would retell it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think
And
the way that
maybe,
it's told is like too much of its time, maybe. Maybe that's it, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's just really sticky and gimmicky, and it doesn't. It there were times where it felt like it was trying really, really hard,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like it didn't have to try so hard for us to still overall enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think there's tons of serious movies too that transcend their times now that I'm thinking about it. Even like I mentioned earlier, Menace to Society. Like it's a super 90s movie, but like the at the core of that movie, it's about like trying to survive the hood in your neighborhood and getting out and not becoming a victim of the system and the way things exist around you and trying to do better for yourself. And I think that easily transcends the 90s of it all. Like that message is just universal and again transcendent of any time. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just unfortunately still true to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I don't necessarily think that this movie holds its own in 2022 because of the way that it was told is very 1993.
Okay, yeah, okay, I get that.
Simone, I have not a would you rather, but like, I guess it's just a question. But like, would you ride a scooter across the Bay Bridge with me?
Yes. Are you driving or am I driving?
I don't know. I was like, I thought about it for real. I was like, because there's the scene where Will and Nia, or Zora and TK, are on
Mm-hmm.
her scooter, and TK's driving, and she's on the back, and they're going across the Bay Bridge, which it's just like, oh my god, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, could you imagine like me and Simone just beep beep? Because we also hung out, and I joked that we should get scooters. And be like little scooter mob bitches. But then I thought about it, and I thought about the merging from like 680 to get on the Bay Bridge
Oh,
right by
oh my God, that's the
Imperial.
worst merge ever.
Right? So I was like, oh my god, I would hate to do that on a little scooter. Like, no thank you. So it depends on the time of day.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, we can and the Bay Bridge looks different now than
Yes.
it did in 1993, but we could also do like a little Golden Gate Bridge moment if we wanted to.
I say we bike around Berkeley and
Okay.
and we have to find this park or wherever this arch was. I'm very curious about that.
Love it. Yes. I'm down.
Anything else?
Snack and cocktails?
Yes. Well, I'm gonna keep it really Bay Area since we're
Go for it.
in this
Mhm.
space. Either I'm going Mills Hoagie, which is by Mills College, and is like the hoodest place I know of. Never been there by myself, but man, it's delicious. Or I'm going like Blondie's Fat Slice in Berkeley, and and getting a pizza and knocking back like a Jones soda or something. Or like a Pabst.
Okay, so my cocktail's different because I did that thing where I like looked up a specialty.
Yes, you're back on your bullshit. I love it.
So Whoopi Goldberg's bookstore, Sarah Matthews' bookstore in this movie is called African Queen, and it's a very like Afrocentric bookstore, and it has clothing and books and sculptures and like historic pieces and all this like really neat things. Totally something that you would see. I would still argue like I would love for it to exist in real life, but like
it might be down like on MLK Boulevard somewhere in Berkeley.
I don't know. I could still see it exist in a place on Telegraph, like in downtown Berkeley.
Yeah. I
don't know.
It's so expensive now.
Oh, I'm sure. Real estate wise, definitely. Yeah. But so I looked up and there is a cocktail called the African Queen.
Look at you.
Okay, in the African Queen, it is 2 shots of bourbon, a squeeze of lemon juice, and what makes it like the African piece of it is that they use spices and flavors inspired by Africa. So we have liquid tamarind.
I love tamarind.
Or you could even line the glass. I saw it too with like that little like tamarind powder, and passion fruit puree.
Oh, this sounds good.
It does sound good. I would make that.
Yeah.
And I'm usually not too much of a bourbon person, but I would give it a try.
I'm also curious, like as a Black person, I don't really know of like African cocktails. So now I'm like curious, like what are we drinking over on the continent? Like what's the drink of choice in Africa? I mean, we know like wine is Italian and European, and champagne is French and stuff, and whiskey is Irish, and I'm like I know Black people have had to have like something in Africa. I'm sure. I think Egyptians had wine too, like before. I'm not sure. But
yeah, I'm trying to think of things that might have been like introduced by colonization, but I don't want to think about like colonization inspired cocktails, but like what was there before, like pre
like
slave
ancient,
trade
like
and colonization.
Kind of like Native
I'm sure
American
it varies.
Stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure it varies by country, but I wonder if there's like a general flavor profile or like a common beverage that might have been served. Fun historical research to do for later.
Well, thank you, Made in America.
All right, we wrapping it up?
Yeah, we are wrapping the swirl up on Made in America. Me and you. All right, so thank you for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who've stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the Safeway Select version of Inside the Actor Studio, because that's where Hal went and bought some groceries when he was kind of getting his life together.
That's
you see
it.
Little 90s Safeway back?
I did. That was great. And seriously, if you like us, like how much I liked that Ritz Bits cheese sandwich product placement in this movie, and you want to stick around with us, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss Will Smith in another 1993 movie, 6 Degrees of Separation.
And on that note, you've got nothing better to do. Go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm your host, Simone. Subscribe to This Blessed Mess and leave us a like if you are into it.
And I'm your host, Bria, and it would be awesome for you to wipe off those buttery popcorn fingers and give us a review. Follow us at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and my favorite, Twitter. And this has been another episode of
Roll Call.